Okay, Amy, we are live. Go ahead and take it away.
Great. Thank you again, Jefferson. This is Suzanne Brooks. I'm the Director of Meetings and Conventions for the Ohio Dental Association, and I'm here along with Amy. And we do want to reiterate what Jefferson said, in that you all are very important to us. And we have a long, I hope, reputation of showing you how much the partners, exhibitors are with our show. And we've worked very hard to make sure that where we do everything we can to put on a great presentation and a great annual session each fall to bring in dentists and their teams, we also work very hard to make it a great event for you. We have this longstanding relationship with Competitive Edge and Jefferson, and putting these things together, these webinars, which can all be found at our Exhibitor Resource Center, our ERC, our Exhibitor Success Center. We definitely want you all to be a part of this and encourage you to participate. See the articles that Jefferson contributes, see the webinars that we've done not only this year, but in past years. And really, we want to provide you with the resources that you need to make this successful. This year, we are doing something very special on our floor, and it's an answer both to what our attendees are telling us that they want to see, as well as in working with exhibitors. And that is, we have our manufacturer showcase. We've invited manufacturers to come, and we're giving them additional space to be able to do live demonstrations on the floor. And so this webinar today is designed by Jefferson to really help everyone get as most out of our manufacturer showcase this year as possible. So with that, again, please take time at the end of the seminar to fill out your survey. Please do not hesitate to reach out to Amy Semania or myself if you have any questions, even after the seminar is over. We look forward to seeing you in September, and thank you for being a part of this. And Jefferson, thank you for the partnership that we've shared with you and Competitive Edge. We greatly appreciate it.
Great. Well, thank you, Suzanne, Amy, and most of you on this webinar today exhibit at other shows. And I'm sure you know that it seems like you only hear from many show producers when they want to sell you something, or they want to check, or they send you that service kit with the reminders of all the logistical stuff you have to do. And, you know, it's really awesome to be partnered with a great organization like the Ohio Dental Association, whose philosophy is not just to rent you concrete and hope it works out, but also to provide you with ongoing support to make sure that the time and the money that your company's investing is supporting your core business objectives and delivering financial value beyond cost. And so today is another brick in the wall, if you will. As Suzanne mentioned, if you have not been to the Exhibitor Success Center, please be sure to bookmark it and share it with your team. There's over $10,000 of proven effective content, downloadable tools, planning exercises, webinars, articles, and you can ask the trade show expert at any time. Just click the link in the ESRC and a question will come to me, and I'm here to do anything I can do to help you win big at the Ohio Dental Association annual session. So let's get rolling. Today's seminar, many of you maybe have seen me around. I've been around the industry longer than I care to admit. Again, been working with the Ohio Dental Association. This is our 9th year. And, you know, I'm extremely process-based. I'm results-focused. I've never viewed a trade show as a place to just show up, fly the company flag, scan badges, hand out tchotchkes, and go home. It's always been the place where I had to make $1 do the work of 10. And to that end, I've organized what I call the exhibit marketing process, and I've helped my clients generate over 800 million in results. In fact, back in the mid-90s, I was consulting and training with a company that developed intraoral cameras. And we were doing all the dental meetings. And when I first met them, you know, they were writing a little bit of business at shows. By the time I was done, we were writing over $1 million, $1.5 million at each show. And so one thing I know for sure, trade shows work if you see them and you execute them properly. So today we're going to really dive into the subject matter of how to design in-booth demonstrations and presentations with the end game of attracting more dental professionals to your exhibit. So hopefully you have your workbook. If you don't, again, click on that handouts on your tab, open it, print it, and get ready. There's a lot of content here, and what I want you to do is capture it. And more importantly, I want you to use something from what you learn here today. So now put yourself in the mind of a dental professional, whether you're a hygienist or you're an assistant or you're an office or practice manager, or if you're a dentist and you come to a dental meeting like the Ohio Dental Association, the annual sessions, you really have overchoice about where to spend your time, right? You could go to the sessions, the continuing educational sessions. You could be networking with your colleagues. You could be out doing things in the city of Columbus, right? So you have all this choice, right? And dental professionals are very selective about where they put their time and how much time they spend in the exhibit hall, and really which exhibits they visit. So a few questions to kind of get us going here is I want you to think about your last dental trade show, and I want you to think about how you executed your exhibit. And here's the major question. Could you say, coming into this webinar here, that your most recent exhibit added value to the dental professionals event experience? Remember, it's all about value, right? One of my favorite phrases is, and you may want to write this down, it's a good one, where the value is clear, the decision is easy, right? And every choice they make, go here, go to this booth, go to that booth, go to this session or that, is a values-based choice. In their brain, they're asking, where am I going to get the most value? So you got to make sure that your exhibit is adding value to the experience. And the phrase I like to use, jot this down because this is a great way to think about your booth. Is it a worthy destination? Is it worthy of their time? Is it a place in the exhibit hall where they're going to go, oh, I got to go to that booth? And then when they go to that booth and they're moving around the meeting, they're telling, hey, have you been? Oh, you got to go to this booth. It's unbelievable. You got to check this out. So that's a way to think about your exhibit. And when when you think about competing, you're not only competing with your direct product or service category, but honestly, you're competing with every other exhibit in the hall, because they're not going to stop at every exhibit. They don't have the time to stop at every exhibit, right? So you got to think about, how can we add value to their experience? Is our exhibit a worthy destination? And equally important, what are you going to do between now, before the show and during the show to promote your exhibit experience? So it's really about experience, right? Like if there's anything we learned from the pandemic and the lockdowns and getting pushed into virtual, that virtual will never be a replacement for what happens when we get eye to eye, ear to ear, and toe to toe in an exhibit hall, is that we come for that experience. And that really leads me into my second big point here, is thinking about why people attend trade shows. And it really comes down to 4 reasons, right? Top of the list, especially in the dental community, they come to learn, right? Now, of course, they're taking continuing educational credits sessions, but also in your exhibit, right? You're the subject matter experts on what you offer. So if you'll step away from using a buy-sell model and go to a teaching model, number one, you'll get more traffic at your booth. Number two, they'll walk out of there knowing something they didn't know that they walked in. And if the end game is to create a customer or a purchase, the means is the learning experience. What can you network, right? They come, this is their chance to interact with their dental professionals, community suppliers like you, right? So they come to network. Number 3, sourcing, and that means like maybe they have a project coming up in the practice that they're looking for potential partners, vendors, solution providers, and in many cases to revalidate. You may want to circle that one, to revalidate existing buying relationships. You know, we're seeing a big change in dentists, where we've got a younger dentist coming into practice. We're seeing a lot more female dentists coming into practice. And, you know, a lot of them, you know, when they come in, they look at the current supplier and vendor and they're going, hey, are they still the best overall source, right? Is there better, faster, cheaper, greener, safer, cleaner, whatever, right? So revalidating existing buying relationships, and share that with your team. And they come to have fun, right? You know, and that's really what it's about. So I share this with you because I want you to think about how you're designing your visitor experience and how many of these reasons or buttons that you can push as you promote and deliver your experience, right? The more you can integrate, the more traffic you're going to have. Okay, so let's talk about learning needs for a moment. I've got a hit list here of ways that we as exhibitors can make sure that we're doing a better job of meeting learning needs. Number one is make sure you're staying on top of the trends that are impacting the dental market. And then think about how you can align your visitor experience with a current trend that is impacting the dental market. Second, think about, what will the visitor walk out of your booth knowing that they didn't know when they walked in? Practical knowledge takeaways, ideally that they can use in patient care or practice management, right? Hey, by visiting our booth, you'll learn how to do A, B, C. You'll learn about this. Again, if you tie into the learning need, they'll come running to your booth, right? Number three, make sure that you are being very precise in speaking about how your products, how your services respond to these trends, and also how it helps them run their practice and their job more proficiently and effectively. Remember, it really comes down to patient care, practice management, right? Those would be the two big areas. And every chance you get, you know, they come to trade shows to do more than they can do on your website. So hands-on. The dental community is a very tactile audience. They want to touch things. They want to interact with stuff. They want to have their mind stimulated when they enter your booth, right? So these are ways we meet the learning needs. Technology, which I'm going to show you. There's so many ways that you can use technology in your booth to help support your exhibiting effort. Number six, takeaway content, right? People love to enter a booth, learn something and take away, whether it's a white paper, a case study, best practices, checklists, you know, here's how to solve this specific problem. Make sure there's something useful, educational that they can take away when they visit your booth, okay? Number seven, if you have enough booth space, right? Creating space in your booth for peer-to-peer discussions, you know, where you can get the dental professionals talking with one another in your space about the problems that you help them solve. And when you promote your experience, think about, what will the dental professionals see? What are they going to do? How are they going to immerse and engage? What are they going to learn? What are they going to walk out of there knowing? And what are they going to get from visiting your booth? And if you'll think through see, do, learn, get, you'll literally be designing your visitor experience. And then you can integrate that into your pre and at show marketing to drive traffic. And another idea, take a look at the roster of educational sessions that are being held at the event, right? And ask yourself, which of these sessions, the topic relates to what you do? Promote those sessions, right? Mention those sessions in your marketing. Say, hey, go check out this session. And after you're done, come on over to our booth to continue the learning, to continue the discussion, right? So these are some ideas on ways that you can better meet attendees' learning needs. Sourcing. So let's flip over to that side. These are people that are coming who either have immediate or near future purchase needs, right? So they're coming looking for vendors, products, potential partners, right? So number one, new. New is a magnet. Write that down. If you have something new in your booth, make sure you lead with it and you feature it and promote it, of course. Prove, show, tell, and prove how your products or services save money, make the patient care, the practice management more efficient, more effective. Number three, interactive calculators. And I'll give you examples as we go on, ways that they can get a quick handle of time or money or savings, stuff for them to do in your booth, right? Competitive comparisons, very important, right? They have overchoice of what to buy. So you want to be honest and truthful in these competitive comparisons, but don't be shy about showing clearly what makes your products or services different or better than. Because when people are going to source or buy a product or service, there's really two major questions, and you may want to write these down, the major questions. Why at all? Meaning the opportunity, the problem it solves, and why you? What makes your company, your people, your products, your services different or better than the competition? And who knows, your whole demo might be built around spotlighting your competitive differences, right? So here's another great suggestion too. Most people, when they're buying, now if it's not a commodity product like toothbrush, toothpaste, floss, right, commodities, there's not a whole lot of in-depth evaluation going on there. But if you're selling like technology, intraoral cameras, any form of dental technology, software, right, things that they are worried that if they make the wrong decision, it's going to cost them, right? So educate them on the questions they should be asking when really evaluating your type of purchase. Here are the 7 questions that customers ask us. We want to share this with you so you can do a thorough competitive analysis, right? Identify the visitor's purchase criteria. Just ask them point blank, say, hey, when you look at this type of product, what are the most important things that you want to know or tend to use to make an informed decision? Identify the criteria and then be able to deliver that information when and how they want it, whether it's right now at the show, whether it's in your follow-up, or whether it's in bite-sized portions over time, right? Number 7, make sure your staff, right? Knowledgeable staff. You should be able to, your staff should know the key competitors you deal with and what makes your products services different. Your staff should know the situations within the practice that would create interest or need in your type of product. And they need to be able to answer these questions on the fly, on the spot, when they're standing with a dental professional. And always, remember, we're talking about influencing buying decisions here, a consultative sales approach. Don't make any assumptions about their needs, their problems, their goals. Ask questions. Situational questions will help you understand what's prompting the interest in the need, and then you can get into the more qualifying type questions. But listen carefully, try to understand what their problem or pain point or project is before you start talking solutions. It's probably one of the biggest mistakes I see booth staffers make is when they jump right in and start kind of pitching a solution before they've really understand the need, the interest, or the problem. So a consultative sales approach would help you, okay? Let's swing over to your in-booth demonstration presentation. So the number one way, according to the Center for Exhibition Industry Research, that attendees want to interact with an exhibit is through some form of a presentation or demonstration. And live marketing is one of the expo industry leading companies that develops in-booth presentation demonstrations. They've been doing it for, I think, 40 plus years, has found some interesting facts that a well-designed demo can increase your qualified leads, can increase your brand awareness, and can have a very strong influence on opinions and purchase intentions, right? And number 3 is that over half of trade show attendees say they remember the booths that had something for them to do in the booth. So some pretty powerful empirical evidence that validates why developing and investing time and resources and developing your presentation is critical, okay? So some of you have many products, multiple services, and maybe you struggle sometimes with what do we bring and what do we feature, and of all the stuff, what should we show, tell, and demonstrate? Well, I said it a moment ago, lead with new, right? New is a magnet. New is your showstopper. If you have something new, that's what you should be leading with. The second in the tier would be, which of your products or services speak and address a top of the mind challenge, a need or a problem? That would be a lead. And finally, you have your bread and butter products, right? If you are a multiple product, multiple service company, chances are the 80-20 rule is holding in play. 80% of your revenue is coming from 20% of your products. So you would always want to reinforce your market position on your pillar or your bread and butter products, okay? Let's talk about some strategies here, demonstration presentation strategies. Prove your claims. If you say it does this, prove it. It's got to be one of the most effective presentation strategies. Demonstrate your key differences, right? What I'm giving you here is high level on what's going to be the purpose of your demonstration presentation. Or 3, recreate a scenario, an experience, or a situation. So here's an example. This is Valspar. Okay, so Valspar was exhibiting at the architecture show. They have a roofing compound that keeps the inside of the building cooler than their competitors. So this is a prove your claim and demonstrate your key difference. And actually, it's kind of recreating a scenario too. It's almost like all three. So they had these 3 little buildings in here, and they had a heat lamp burning down on each building. And they had, you can't see it here, but they had a little digital thermometer in each one of these buildings. And it quickly showed, here's what the internal temperature with our product is. Here's competitor 1, here's competitor 2. You know, simple, right? But very effective. Before and after, that was such a powerful strategy. Everybody knows before and after, right? Old way versus new way. Here's how the old way, and here's the new and better way, right? Presenting to multiple buying influences. Remember, when people are going to make a buying decision, you usually have different influencers. You'll have the user, you'll have the specifier, you'll have the recommender, and you'll have the final decision maker. And a big problem in the dental industry, listen carefully to this, is that neglecting the influence of dental assistants, hygienists, and practice managers. They might not be the ones that makes the final buying decision, but they have heavy, heavy influence in what the dentist ultimately purchases or invests in. So please tell your staff, do not overlook hygienists, assistants, office managers, right? They have a lot of influence, and oftentimes they do. Everybody's like, look at the badges that say dentist on it, that say doctor on it, right? That's a big mistake. Here's a great example. Now, this is showing everything's firing on this case example here, this Dyson Airblade. First, they have the user experience, which is what? The wash bowl. Put your hand in the dryer and dry it quickly, right? What a great experience. Now, look on the back wall, what's going on over here. On the far left, you'll see a video with a cutout exploded view of the Airblade. That is speaking to the technical influencer. Look at the middle panel. Look very carefully at the numbers. They're showing the annual cost of paper towels, the annual electric cost to run their competitor's dryer, and they're showing their dryer on the bottom. They're speaking to the financial influencer, right? Now, look carefully to the right of the water bowl. Eliminate waste. They've got a cutout view of a garbage can loaded with paper towels. So they're speaking to the sustainable, the green influencer. And this is a clinic, really just, I mean, we've evaluated over 41,000 booths. And this is one of my all-time favorites because it is firing on every single cylinder, right? It's easy to enter. It's got an interactive engagement right on the perimeter, and then it kind of has all of the information you need to understand why the Dyson Airblade, the fastest, most hygienic hand dryer. Talk about a strong USP that differentiate. That's a USP and a value prop. Fastest, most hygienic, and it differentiates from the competitors. Challenging attendees' knowledge and skill, right? Remember, people come to shows to learn, and they like to have ways to have their knowledge engaged with knowledge. Making people guess to learn. So check out this one here. This was at the orthopedic show, Stryker. So Stryker had this question all over the convention center. And so there was this new additive poly. It's like a compound that they put in when they rebuild bones. But notice how they drew traffic. It said, ask the question, right? Everybody knows what's being added, but what's being taken away? Find the answers at the Stryker booth. Now, I was at this show because I took this photograph. I walked by the Stryker booth 3 times during the orthopedic surgeon event, packed with surgeons. So they were using a question and intrigue and curiosity to come to the booth to do what? Learn, right? And when you are going to hold demos, depending on the length of the demo and how you do it, unique or comfortable places to do the demo. So this is a very simple example, a small booth. They've got a flat panel there. They've got a guy presenting. They just had 4 little round, these air chairs that you can sit on. Made it unique. It got them to sit down, which increased their dwell time in the booth and kept them comfortable during the presentation. So these are some ideas, strategies that you could be employing into your demonstration or presentation. So some of you provide services like I do, right? Now I'm going to show you at the end, I'm going to close this webinar with the last trade show I did and give you my case story on how I created an immersive, interactive, fun, learning-based experience for my attendees. But here's the thing, right? You know, if you have a product, it's a little easier to demo, right? But if you have a service, you really got to give it some thought, right? Some thought and some creativity, right? So you got to think less about what the service is, and you got to think more about the problems you solve, the opportunities you create, savings, efficiencies, and improvements that you can deliver. So your service is the means, but your presentation focuses on the end, right? The means versus the end goal, okay? And when you're in service, you really want to focus more on results. How does this improve the quality of their patient care, the management of the practice, the profitability of the practice, right? And don't get too deep into the woods on the how, get focused more on the end game, the outcome. So different strategies that you could use with services, right? You could have a brief, it would be a one-to-one or a one-to-many. You know, the 3 biggest problems with getting your insurance claims processed faster and how to eliminate them, right? Something like that. It could be a one-to-one or even a small one-to-many. Using physical props to hook and engage, right? For example, and well, let me save that. I'll tell you about my calculator approach at the end of the webinar here. A white paper, an industry intelligence report, case studies when you're promoting services. The practice was experiencing this problem. Here's the approach we took with them. Here's the result that we delivered for them. And also having client testimonials visually, either whether it's on a flat panel or whether it's on pulled up banners or whether it's actually in your exhibit backdrop. These are all things that you want to think about being a service provider versus a physical product, right? Okay, so the major types of presentation demos, you know, when you think about how we're going to do this, one-to-one personalized. This means your staffer engages a visitor, they get a situational assessment of what their needs and goals are, and then they present directly to that person. So be an example where a doctor is sitting down with another doctor showing him this is a one-to-one, right? One-to-many structured, where you're doing more of a structured presentation in the booth. It might be a live presentation. It could be a mini theater. It might even be a tour of your booth, which I'll show you some examples here in a moment. Okay, interactive AV, right? Another way, you know, play daily for the chance to win something. a tablet, a computer, touch screens, projection, even motion sensing technology, which we'll show you some examples here in a moment. Gamification, write that word down. Fast, fun, novel, learn something. Gamification is super hot. Take this quick 7-question quiz. Search around our booth, see if you can find these 3 Easter eggs, right, that help build this story. Super fun. Recreating environments we talked about, right? Check this out. Here's an example where they were just displaying the urinal and they were showing very quickly, almost in the environment, come see how quick, simple, sustainable, and cost-effective it can be, right? So one-to-many theaters, right? So here's an example from a dental show where 3M is doing an in-booth presentation. They've got this little educational forum area in the booth. We've got a presenter up here. Even in smaller booths, some of you say, hey, Jefferson, I'm in a 10 by 10 or a 10 by 20. It's kind of hard to do a theater in a 10 by 10, but I tell you what, if you were to add that additional space and go from a single wide to a double wide, it'd be very easy, just like this next example, to put a small theater even into a 10 by 20 booth. This next was a 10 by 20 booth, right? So here's an example of a one-to-many guided. I worked with this client, McClanahan, right? And they have, they essentially serve mines and quarries, and they do this large, we call it big iron. These machines that crush rocks, big rocks into little rocks, and process everything to do with the mine. So what they wanted to do was communicate the breadth of solutions, right? So we built this guided booth tour called the Do More Tour. See the sign on the top where it said Do More? And we were showing them how to do more. We had 4 products on display in the booth. We did a real aggressive pre-show marketing campaign. We had crowd gatherers in the booth, and we just quickly took them to 4 different areas in the booth. And then we put a card in their hand. Look at the picture on the right there. We put a card in their hand, which had them write one word from each of the 4 solutions. And then when they were done, they would tear off the bottom of the card with their qualifying information, and they got to put their hands into a bag and pull a casino chip. We were in Las Vegas. So this was a one-to-many guided presentation. We had 2,300 people go through our presentation at the IMTS show. So these can be very effective if you think it through and promote it properly, right? Interactive AV, there's so much stuff you can do to this, from augmented reality, like the bottom right, where you put the headset on and you look at this screen and the images, to these cubes, these tables where you can have information where they can slide the cube, to touchscreen interactives, and like the example from BioLays here from a dental show where they've got their product on a really nicely staged, and then they've got an interactive AV on top of it, okay? Guided interactive AV. This was a super cool example. This was at the NAC show. So this was Coca-Cola. They had an experience called Customize Your Cold Vault, and it used a large video wall to recreate what a cold vault would look like. And they would have the C-store owner come in and select the demographic. Notice the touch screen on the bottom, and then the category, and then it would shuffle it around. It would shuffle right in front of them. And not only would it shuffle the product mix, but it would show them the impact of making that change. So this is guided interactive multimedia, right? Here's a great example, self-guided interactive. This was from radiology, RSNA. This was GE, and they had a goal to reinforce their company's brand identity as the industry leader in innovation. So they had this wall that had motion sensors. It was right on the edge of their booth near the aisle. And as the visitor would walk near the innovation of the last 50 years, the leading thing they created each year by year, see on the bottom, it would come up. This was a super cool example of how to use self-guided interactive multimedia, okay? Gamification, I mentioned that, super hot, right? You know, remember the 4th reason people come to shows? To have fun, right? And if you can design your game here that's interactive and promote it, you can draw a big crowd to your booth. So this one was using the deal or no deal approach, Toshiba here, to have a little interactive game in the booth. Give you a couple other examples here. So this was a company, Interlock, that essentially was targeting warehouse distribution centers. And what they sell is, rather than welded shelves that go into the unit that are fixed and you can't change, these ones that you could bolt together. And they had the game challenge where they would have 4 people come up and see how fast, by using the bolt, how fast could you create your storage wall, a scale model version of it. Fast, fun, novel, engaged people, demonstrated the point, right? So here's another one, right? I'm sure all of you have seen exhibitors just have the little Plinko board in their booth, right? That little plastic board. And it's usually a game in search of an outcome. They took a different approach here. They used an oversized version, right, of Plinko, where they had a person on the top and the attendees down below selected one, and she went up the top and she would drop down the mesh versus the FlexNet. The FlexNet was their solution. The Met was remember old way, new way? That's what we're talking about here. And the puck would fall down. The FlexNet, it would go quickly to the bottom. On the mesh, it would get stuck, right? So they were using an oversized gamification to engage visitors, okay? Here's another game base that's using interactive media. And I'm showing you from a lot of different industries because I think it's important. Some of these are dental examples, but I think it's important to, get a look out there of what's happening. So this was convenience stores. This was General Mills. They had a little thing in the booth. The theme was discover category growth. So they're wanting to help them grow the category sales. So they built this fun little interactive called the Snack Swap Challenge. So they had these positioned in the booth, right? And when you look on the screen, there were 12 products that showed up on the screen. So the attendee's job was to quickly click the 3 that they thought were bringing down the category sales. And then once they clicked them, it would hit calculate, and it would actually use actual data to show them whether they raised the category or not, right? So what a cool, fun, fast, novel, interactive experience that would really make you stand out on the show floor, right? So another strategy, we talked about recreating environments. So look on the left here, you can see 3Shape, and they did a really nice job here of almost recreating the operatory, right? They've got the white, everything's white. They've got the flat panel there. They've got the chair. They've got the equipment, right? And look on the right. This has always been one of my favorites, these evacu chairs. Now, I didn't catch the picture here of them putting people up, but what they usually do, I just saw them at a show, is they will have a small person in the booth, and they will get a larger person to sit in the chair, and they'll just have that smaller person lifting that person right up those steps very easily without any strain. So not only are they recreating their environment here, but they're doing what? They're proving their claim, right? Okay, I'm throwing a lot at you quickly. I want you to take a moment and think about any questions that you might have and go to your question tab and submit. All right, so let's get into, I've kind of given you a lot of examples and given you different strategies you could take. How long should your in-booth presentation be? Short enough to hold interest, but long enough to inform. The whole experience, at best will be 20 minutes. The physical demonstration presentation, 5 to 8 minutes is about as long as you're going to want it to be. You could have some upfront qualifying for a couple minutes. And if you're doing one-to-many, then you would have your resetting it and your crowd gathering phase, 10 to 13 minutes, right? And you might hold it at, like 3 intervals during the day. And if the show has unopposed exhibiting hours, meaning there's nothing else going on, you definitely want to increase your frequency during those unopposed hours, okay? So length, the big takeaway, short enough to hold their interest where they don't get bored and walk away, but long enough to inform and make sure they get your message, okay? So 4 big questions that you're going to want to ask as you think about how am I going to build my visitor experience. Number 1 is, who is your target audience and what are their top of the mind concerns, right? It's all going to be about that. And then you're going to detail out how specifically do our products address these concerns. And then you're going to really drill it down to, right? You want one big idea, one key idea that the audience walks away with, right? And that transformational idea. And then you're going to think about what do you want them to do during the demo, and what do you want them to do after the demo? What happens immediately after and over time? So let me give you 7 steps here. Number 1, begin with the end in mind. Set clear objectives. What do you want your demo to accomplish? What do you want them to think, feel, do, know, and remember as a result of it? You start there and you work backwards from that outcome. Then make it all about your audience, right? It's all about them. If you just focus on how great your products are and bits, bytes, bods, and all of this and that, you're going to lose them, right? Think in terms of the challenges and keep tying it back to what the challenges and the opportunities they're facing. And remember, as you tell a story through a demo, a great story has a hero, it has a villain, it has a conflict, and it has a triumph. And the hero of the story is not your product, but the hero of your story is your customer, right? So you're always wanting to show them how by doing this makes them the hero in their practice. Physical, mental engagement. Confucius said it best: I hear and I think, I see and I remember, I do and I know. Okay, and if you're using any form of live presenter, okay, any form of live presentation, make sure the person that's telling the story has energy, right? They can keep their energy up and they can deliver your story with enthusiasm and passion. Number 6, be sure to capture their information. Biggest mistake people make, they'll have a demo in the booth and they're not capturing information of the participants. Okay, and finally, what do you want them to do next? Make sure there is a crystal clear call to action telling them exactly what you want to do. And have those next actions planned so your demo will pay off, okay? Okay, so let me give you my case story here, and then we'll go to Q&A, okay? So I was targeting B2B show producers at a show called IAE Expo. The problem that I wanted to try to help them address was exhibitor attrition, exhibitor churn. So the service that I was going to promote was my exhibitor education and support programs. So the theme that I came up with, knowledge is power, to help them get, keep, and grow exhibitors. So I built my exhibit to a bright, backlit, open, easy to enter booth. Knowledge is power to get, keep, and grow exhibitors, right? Notice how I emphasize get, keep, and grow. And notice my image too of a sold out floor plan, because I'm talking about exactly what they want to know. So then the 60-second exhibitor challenge, okay? We had a touchscreen interactive trivia type quiz with 10 questions. They would answer up to 10 questions in 60 seconds. And then they would input their biggest concerns at the end, okay? And I would capture. So I was also getting market research. Notice the flat panel up behind it. Not only would that be a leaderboard like on the left, but when we weren't doing the demo, I would put call out copy on the demo. And the highest score wins a free program. Okay, so I've covered a lot here. I want you to think about what was the big idea for you. And Suzanne, Amy, I'm going to bring you back on for just a second. I have to step away for one moment, and go ahead and submit your questions, everybody. I'll be right back in one moment. Suzanne, Amy?
Thank you. So one of the things that Jefferson mentioned was I keep calling it unrestricted time.
Unopposed
time in the exhibit hall, sorry. And we've done a lot this year to make sure that our exhibitors have time in the hall where nothing else is going on and we're doing everything we can to drive our attendees into the hall. So on Thursday, our hours are 12 to 6. The morning courses end at noon and the afternoon courses start at 2. So straight out of the box on Thursday, there is nothing other than our exhibit floor going on from noon to 2. Then the most courses end at 5. The hall is open until 6. We have our Hops and Shops event in the exhibit hall starting at 4:30 on Thursday. And again, bringing people into the hall, and that's the only thing that's going on our floor. On Friday, we've made a lot of changes. Our hall hours are 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. The last few years, we've really concentrated on trying to do some happy hour types events in our hall that was open until 6. And we found that both our attendees and our exhibitors were done by mid-afternoon. Our attendees that were going into CE classes didn't really come back into the hall. And a lot of people were looking forward to going to dinner or other social events. So what we've done this year is our hall hours on Friday are 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We're having a 2.5-hour lunch break. Most all our courses will end at noon on Friday and we'll start back at 2:30. So that 2.5 hours in the midday, everything's about annual session, or excuse me, about exhibit hall. And we're even giving all attendees free lunch in our hall. So we do have things going on in the hall during that time, like our table clinics and other types of events, but everything is in the exhibit hall. So we're really trying to push our attendees into the hall and then give those unopposed hours back to you. On Saturday, our hall is 9 a.m. to 1. Most of our morning courses will end at noon and then start back at 1:30. So we do have that exhibit floor open on Saturday for 1 hour. And so those are the things that we're focusing on and that we're really wanting to work with you and make sure you have that space.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne. I'm back. I appreciate you stepping in there. Yeah, the manufacturer showcase is all about live demos. And, the big takeaway from today's session, actually the whole stream of consciousness here is number one is that the attendees have overchoice, right? And if you want more interested, qualified people at your booth, you really got to put in the work to make your exhibit more experiential, that they're going to learn something. We talked about those 4 big reasons why attendees attend trade shows. And the more of those that you can integrate, they come to learn, they come to network, they come to source, and they come to have fun. And the more you can address really build those experiences into your booth, the more traffic you're going to have. We walked you through, there's so many different strategies you can take for your demo, but depending upon what your product or service is, you've got to think it from that way. What is the best strategy for me to show, tell, immerse, and engage in our story, our message? And then all the different ways you can do it, whether it's one-to-one, one-to-many, whether you're using interactive AV, games, trivia, all that stuff works. That 60-second challenge that I did was so much fun because I had people coming back. They were only allowed to play once per day, but I had them coming back on day 2 to play again to see if they could raise their score. Because I was saying whoever's at the top of the leaderboard 15 minutes before the show closes wins a free program. So not only did I build energy and excitement, but I had a crowd at the booth at the end of each day of the show. And the device I was using, the game device, was just an iPad with an app that you can create trivia games on. But it was very engaging and they learned stuff. And many of them were surprised of things that they thought they knew, but when they took the quiz, they found out they actually didn't know. So it created cognitive dissonance, right? And created the need. And so we've covered a lot of ground here today. I don't see any questions yet. Any of you online, if you want to throw out questions about your product and how I'm a really good brainstormer. And also if you want to reach out to me even after the show in a one-to-one, I'd be happy to talk with you about, what your product service is, who your target customer is, and bounce some ideas around on how to really build that interactive visitor experience. Because remember this, right? In our 40,000 evaluations, where we've almost 41,000 now, where we've stood in front of booths and evaluated them so many times, right? I've seen exhibitors have a flat panel in their booth with their website on it. And I ask them, like, what do you want the visitor to do when they visit your booth? Well, we want them to go to our website. I'm like, they can go to your website at home, right? Remember this, write this phrase down in closing. People want to do more in your booth than they can do on your website. And that's the magic power of trade shows, the ability to bring your product, your services, your stories to life, right? And engage people, engage them visually, engage them auditorily, engage them kinesthetically, right? The more senses that you get involved in the experience, the higher the impact and the longer the recall of the experience is going to be. So that really concludes our subject matter here today for today's session. Let today be a beginning, not an end. There's so much content up here, and if you have not invested time on the Exhibitor Success Center, you should, right? Pretty much any question, any topical area that you may have is probably being addressed on this site, and if it's not, you can always reach out to me with questions. So I want to thank everybody for taking a little under an hour of your time today. My challenge for you is to think about what I presented here today. Look for 3 big ideas that you got, 3 ideas you got from today's webinar, and put them to work. You're right here in the sweet spot. We're sitting here in June. We've got a September show, and you're right in the sweet spot to put on an experience that will differentiate your company and your products, draw more dental professionals, and ultimately help you have a more productive and profitable exhibiting experience. So Suzanne, Amy, any closing or additional thoughts from ODA?
No, just thank you for everybody to participate. Remember, everything is at that Exhibitor Success Center, pardon me. And as always, Jefferson, thank you for helping us through this.
Yeah, you too. And hey, remember everybody, most importantly, right? It's not what you heard here today that's going to make the difference. It's going to be what you do. And I'm challenging you to take a look at your exhibit through the eyes of the attendee and ask yourself, have you created a destination that is worthy of the attendee's time? We can blame the dentists. We can blame, oh, they don't spend enough time in the hall. They don't come to my booth. And I tell you what, if we blame the customers, we're pointing it the wrong way. It's going to come down to, did we, out of a couple hundred booths, did we create an experience that was worthy of the attendee's time? If you do, they'll come running, but the onus is on you. Suzanne, Amy will do everything they can do to get the dental professionals to Columbus, into the convention center, and into the exhibit hall, right? But you got to do your part to get them to your booth. You don't win this game just by showing up. You win this game by showing out. Big difference between showing up and showing out. So I hope today's session has inspired, motivated you, and given you some ideas that you can put to play. Again, if you want to talk about this, I'm happy to connect with any of you. You can reach me through the Exhibitor Success and ROI Center. At the bottom, you'll see an Ask the Trade Show Expert link. I'd be happy to connect with you to discuss. So thanks for your time. Get off this webinar, get busy, and we will see you at the annual session in September. Have a great summer, everybody, if I don't hear from you sooner.